Picture two bank robbers. Right.
Right.
They're sitting in these separate windowless interrogation rooms.
Oh, the classic setup.
Exactly. So the police, they know these guys do it, but they just don't have enough hard evidence for a major conviction.
Right.
So a detective walks in, slides a deal across the table to each of them, and it goes like this. If both robbers stay silent, meaning, they cooperate with each other, they each get a pretty light sentence. Just 1 year.
This is not too bad.
No, not bad at all. But if one guy stays silent and the other guy rats him out, the rat goes completely free. And the silent guy, he gets slapped with a heavy 3-year sentence.
Oh.
Yeah. And then if they both just panic and rat each other out, they both get 2 years. So welcome to this deep dive into the architecture of trust and betrayal.
It's a big topic.
It really is. And our mission today for you listening is to take this massive, honestly, incredibly diverse stack of sources. We're talking evolutionary biology papers, analyses of 1970s game theory tournaments, law firm advisories on global supply chains, and even these cutting-edge AI programming blogs.
Quite the mix.
Right. And we're going to extract the ultimate cheat codes for navigating human cooperation.
And that interrogation room scenario you just described, the famous prisoner's dilemma, it's really the absolute foundation for everything we're going to unpack today.
Because it's so fundamental to how we interact.
Exactly. Because it demonstrates how rational thinking can actually, destroy us.
Yeah, I was looking at the Payoff-Matrix in the notes for this, and it is just ruthless. The math literally actively punishes you for being a loyal friend.
It does. I mean, in game theory, we modeled this trap using 4 variables. So you have T, R, P, and S.
Okay. Lay it out for us.
So the mathematical rule that creates this whole dilemma is that temptation is strictly greater than the reward.
Right.
And the reward is greater than the punishment, which of course is greater than the sucker's payoff. So T is greater than R, which is greater than P, which is greater than S.
Okay, let's ground those variables for the listener, because trying to memorize an equation can get a little dry.
Yeah, definitely.
I kept thinking about this, like splitting a dinner bill with a large group of friends.
No, that's a great analogy.
Right. So R, the reward, is when everyone just agrees to split the bill evenly. We all get a good meal, we all pay a fair amount, it's mutual cooperation.
Right. But then you have T, the temptation.
Yeah.
That's the guy who looks at the menu and realizes, hey, since the bill is being split evenly among 12 people, I can order the most expensive lobster.
Oh, there's always that guy.
Always. He gets the lobster and the top shelf drinks, and everyone else is essentially subsidizing his meal. So he gets the maximum individual payoff.
Which leaves the rest of us stuck with S, the sucker's payoff. I mean, I ordered a side salad and tap water, but because that guy ordered the lobster, I'm paying $80.
Exactly.
It's just the absolute worst position to be in.
And because nobody wants to be the sucker, right, everyone at the table preemptively orders the lobster.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Which brings us to P, the punishment. Everyone acted in their own rational self-interest. The bill is absolutely astronomical, and everyone goes broke.
That makes so much sense.
So in the bank robber scenario, no matter what you think the other person in the next room is doing, defection always yields a better individual result.
Because you're protecting yourself.
Right. If you think your partner is staying silent, you rat them out to go free. If you think they are ratting you out, well, you have to rat them out so you don't get stuck with a 3-year sucker's payoff.
So both players logically arrive at the exact same conclusion. They both defect, they both get 2 years, and they guarantee a totally suboptimal outcome for everyone.
Exactly. It starts as this abstract mathematical puzzle, sure, but its consequences govern almost every human interaction where trust is required.
Okay, so if the math absolutely guarantees that both players will betray each other, why do we ever see people actually trust each other in high-stakes situations?
That is the million-dollar question.
Right. And to answer that, let's look at an environment that is specifically designed to force betrayal: reality television.
Oh, yes. This is a fascinating example.
One of our sources breaks down this brutal episode of a British game show called Golden Balls.
The psychological pressure cooker of that show is just a perfect real-world laboratory for this math.
It is genuinely agonizing to watch. So the final round is a literal prisoner's dilemma, and it's called Split or Steal. We have 2 contestants, Stephen and Sarah, and they are playing for a massive jackpot of over £100,000.
A life-changing amount of money.
Yeah, huge. And Stephen makes these passionate, deeply emotional promises to Sarah. I mean, he looks her dead in the eye and swears up and down that he is going to choose the split ball.
And she mirrors that sincerity perfectly. Like,
Mm.
she even uses social leverage.
Oh, yeah, she brings up her family, right?
Yeah, she says that everyone who knows her back home would be absolutely disgusted if she stole the money.
So it looks like an absolute lock for mutual cooperation. You're watching it thinking, okay, they're going to split the 100K.
But then they reveal their choices.
Right. Stephen chose split, and Sarah chose steal.
Hmm.
She takes every single penny, and Stephen gets absolutely nothing. I mean, he gets the ultimate sucker's payoff on national television.
And the crucial detail here, the actual mechanism behind her betrayal, is the history between them.
What do you mean?
She didn't just steal out of, random malice. She stole because Stephen had stabbed her in the back in a previous round of the game.
Oh, wow.
Okay, yeah. She explicitly stated she couldn't put herself through being betrayed by him again. So her past experience completely overrode his current promises.
Wow, so the history dictated the move. Now, if we take that exact same dynamic, right, two entities interacting over time with a history of betrayals, and we scale it up from a TV studio to the entire planet, the stakes become terrifying.
They really do.
We have an advisory source here from the law firm Foley and Lardner, and they are basically sounding the alarm that global supply chains are currently fracturing because of this massive geopolitical prisoner's dilemma.
Yeah, looking at this Foley and Lardner advisory, it's fascinating to view global trade purely through the lens of game theory.
Right. And hey, just to be super clear to you listening, we are not taking any political sides here. We're strictly impartially reporting the law firm's analysis of this stuff.
Exactly, just looking at the mechanics. Objectively speaking, across both the Trump and Biden administrations, the U.S. government has introduced massive unpredictability into the global market.
How so?
Well, the U.S. was historically seen as a stabilizing force,
Yeah.
right? But it is now heavily utilizing tools like Section 232 tariffs for national security and Section 301 tariffs, which specifically target China's trade practices.
Okay, let's translate that macroeconomic stuff down to a human level. Say you're a mid-level procurement manager. We'll call him Dave.
Okay, Dave.
So Dave is at a tech company, and he's had this totally reliable, cooperative relationship with an overseas supplier for, a decade. They are splitting the dinner bill perfectly.
Mutual cooperation.
Exactly. But then suddenly, something like the UFLPA, the Uyghur Forced Labor Prevention Act, just drops out of nowhere.
And that specific act is a massive disruptor.
Yeah.
It creates a presumption that certain imported goods are made with forced labor, which completely shifts the burden of proof.
So what does Dave have to do?
Well, Dave now has to definitively prove his supply chain is perfectly clean all the way down to the raw materials, or his shipments get seized at the border.
And Dave obviously can't risk his company's entire inventory getting seized. So to protect himself from the sucker's payoff, he has to preemptively defect.
Right.
He drops his 10-year supplier with zero warning and scrambles to find a new, more expensive domestic source. So in game theory terms, governments are choosing to defect to protect their national interests, which forces thousands of Daves across the corporate world to abandon long-standing cooperative agreements.
And the cascading effect is just this total defensive posture.
Yeah.
Everyone is ordering the lobster to protect themselves,
Yeah.
and the global economy pays the price.
Which leads to the obvious question, right? If everyone from a reality TV contestant to a multinational corporation is mathematically incentivized to strike first and play dirty, how does anyone, anywhere, ever build trust?
To figure that out, we have to look at someone who tried to solve this exact problem mathematically.
Okay.
Back in the late 1970s, a political scientist named Robert-Axelrod decided to use the computing power of the era to figure out how mutual trust could emerge in an environment where everyone is rewarded for being selfish.
I was actually blown away by this detail in the notes. Axelrod wasn't just doing this as a fun academic exercise.
No, not at all.
He was deeply influenced by the Cuban Missile Crisis. He saw how close the U.S. and the Soviet Union came to total annihilation and thought, there has to be a mathematical, algorithmic path to peace.
So he sets up a computer tournament.
Yeah, tell us about the tournament.
He invites 14 experts from fields like economics, psychology, and mathematics to submit computer code for a 200-round iterated prisoner's dilemma.
Iterated?
Yes, iterated is the key word here. It means they play the game over and over against the same opponent.
Ah, so just like Sarah and Stephen, there's a history.
Exactly. And because there is a history, the competitors submitted incredibly sneaky, highly complex strategies. I mean, they knew they could manipulate their opponents over time.
I loved reading about these strategies. There was this one program called Downing that tried to constantly calculate the probabilities of what the opponent would do next based on complex psychological modeling.
Oh yeah, very advanced for the time.
And then there was Tranquilizer, which I honestly found terrifying. It literally acts like your best friend for the first 10 or 20 rounds, lulling you into this false sense of trust, and then it ruthlessly starts stabbing you in the back when your guard is down.
And don't forget Joss.
Oh, Joss.
Joss mostly cooperates, but it throws in a random, unpredictable defection 10% of the time just to see what it can get away with. It was a completely hostile, toxic digital environment.
But the winner of that first tournament, and actually the winner of the much larger 62-entry second tournament, was a massive shock.
Completely unexpected.
It was a strategy submitted by a mathematical psychologist named Anatol-Rapoport, and it was called Tit-for-Tat. And the crazy thing, out of all these predictive algorithms and psychological traps, it was the simplest code submitted in the entire tournament.
It operates on just two fundamental commands.
What are they?
On round one, it cooperates.
Right.
And on every single subsequent round, it merely mimics whatever the opponent did on the previous turn.
That's it.
That's it. If you cooperate, it cooperates. If you defect, it defects.
It's almost hilariously basic. Why did it completely dominate all those complex, sneaky algorithms?
Because it perfectly modeled what Axelrod later identified as the 4 rules for cooperation.
Okay, let's go through them.
First, it is never envious. It never tries to score more points than its opponent. It is perfectly happy to tie.
Makes sense.
Second, it is never the first to defect. So it is fundamentally a nice strategy.
Right.
Third, it reciprocates both cooperation and defection immediately.
Yeah.
It is forgiving if you return to cooperation, but it absolutely refuses to be a pushover.
It has a spine.
A rigid one. And fourth, it isn't too clever. Its behavior is entirely transparent.
Meaning the other programs can figure it out.
Exactly. When an opponent's code analyzes tit for tat, it quickly realizes that trying to trick it is totally useless, and that mutual cooperation is the literally only mathematical way to extract points from it.
That transparency is so vital. I found a great note in the Eric Roth source we looked at, which actually traces the origins of the phrase tit for tat.
Oh yeah, the history of the phrase.
Yeah, it comes from a 1558 English phrase, blow for blow, or tit for tat. It is the ultimate historical boundary setter. It communicates very clearly, like, I am going to be nice to you, but the second you cross me, I will hit you back with the exact same force.
It creates immediate, highly predictable consequences. There is absolutely no ambiguity.
So we have it. Tit for tat is the magic bullet for world peace. Except the sources reveal a massive, fatal flaw hidden in the data once we take it out of the digital sandbox and into the real world.
Right, because human interaction is never perfectly clean.
No, it's messy.
It's very messy. Evolutionary mathematician Carl Sigmund did a lot of work pointing out that tit for tat is incredibly fragile when you introduce what mathematicians call noise or simple mistakes into the system.
Oh, the dreaded death spiral.
Let's visualize it. Imagine you and your neighbor are perfect tit for tat players. You've been cooperating for years.
Okay, we're good neighbors.
But then a branch from your tree accidentally falls on their fence. It's a mistake, just noise.
Yeah.
But your neighbor, following the strict rules of tit for tat, must immediately retaliate on the next turn.
By doing what?
By, say, throwing their yard waste onto your lawn.
Oh, game on.
Exactly. Now you, following your own rules, must retaliate against their retaliation. You instantly plunge into a never-ending death spiral of alternating revenge.
And the trust is permanently destroyed over a single unintentional mistake.
Yep.
I have a hard time accepting the implications here. Are you telling me that a profound emotional human concept like forgiveness isn't a high-minded moral choice, but literally just a mathematical patch designed to fix a broken line of code in our survival programming?
The evolutionary biology sources strongly suggest exactly that.
That is wild.
To survive the death spiral of mistakes, evolution had to invent algorithms for forgiveness. One of the first patches was a strategy called Win-Stay, lose shift, often referred to as Pavlov.
How does the Pavlov patch work?
The rule is simple. If your last move resulted in a good payoff, keep doing it. If it resulted in a bad payoff, shift your behavior.
Okay.
So if 2 Pavlov players stumble into a mistake and get punished with a bad payoff, their shifting behavior quickly realigns them back into mutual cooperation.
Oh, so it forgives mistakes wonderfully.
It does, but it has a glaring weakness. Sneaky opponents can exploit it by figuring out how to trap the Pavlov player in a cycle where they constantly shift into bad decisions.
Which led to another evolution called Contrite-Tit-for-Tat.
Yes.
This one is fascinating to me because it introduces the concept of standing, which is basically a mathematical value for reputation. So if you accidentally defect while you have good standing, you become contrite. You accept the punishment on the next round meekly without retaliating, which resets the piece.
But that requires the entire community to have a shared understanding of who is provoked and who is the provoker. It requires a public reputation.
Right.
And to answer your skepticism about whether this is just biology, we can look at Carl Sigmund's research on the Arabian babbler bird.
Oh, the birds that fight over chores.
Yes. These birds will actively jostle each other out of the way to take on highly dangerous jobs, like acting as a lookout for predators, or to feed another bird's chicks.
And they aren't doing this out of some, avian sense of charity, right?
Not at all.
Yeah.
They're doing it to mathematically raise their image score within the flock.
Wow.
It's a concept known as indirect reciprocity. By accumulating reputation points now, they ensure that when they make a mistake or need help later, the group will provide it.
That is just wild. They're literally banking social currency to buy forgiveness later.
Potentially, yes.
Okay, so if human morality and forgiveness are deeply embedded survival algorithms used to manage trust, what happens when we remove humans entirely? What happens when we ask a modern artificial intelligence to reinvent that algorithm from scratch today?
This brings us to a really cutting-edge experiment conducted by developer Matt Hodges.
Yeah, tell us about this.
He gave an AI model, specifically Anthropic's Claude 3.5 Sonnet, full access to the Axelrod Python library.
Which is what, exactly?
It's a vast digital repository containing over 200 of the most sophisticated game theory strategies developed by humans over the last 40 years.
And he didn't just ask it to, summarize the library, right?
Yeah.
He gave it a totally open-ended task. Review all of this and build something entirely novel that can actually win against the best human strategies.
Right. And the mechanism of how the AI achieved this is what we call agentic behavior.
Agentic behavior.
The AI didn't just write a single script and stop. It wrote code, deployed it into a digital sandbox, ran thousands of internal simulations against the historic strategies, identified where its code failed against tricky opponents, and recursively rewrote itself.
That's incredible.
And through this autonomous loop, it recognized a massive gap that humans had missed. It invented a brand new strategy called Bayesian Forgiver.
I love diving into how this actually works because it sounds incredibly complex, but the underlying logic is so deeply intuitive.
It really is.
The AI realized that none of the classic strategies were properly calculating their uncertainty about the opponent. They were too rigid.
Exactly.
So the AI utilized something called a beta distribution to dynamically track its beliefs in real time.
It starts at a mathematical state of beta 1, 1.
Okay, let's translate beta 1, 1 into English for the listener.
Please do.
The beta distribution basically tracks two piles of data, how many times you've cooperated and how many times you've defected. When the AI first sits down across the table from you, both those piles are essentially zero. Its uncertainty about your character is at its absolute peak.
Because it has no data.
Right. Because it has no data on you, its forgiveness threshold is incredibly strict. It acts very much like a classic, unforgiving tit-for-tat player. You hit it, it hits back immediately.
But as the rounds progress, that distribution curve literally shifts shape based on the hard data of your actions.
Exactly. Let's say you play 100 rounds and you cooperate 70 times. The AI's uncertainty mathematically shrinks.
Yes.
It now possesses a highly confident empirical model that you are a 70% cooperative player. You've built up an image score, just like the babbler bird.
The social currency.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you suddenly make a mistake and defect on round 101, the AI's math kicks in and says, hold on, my established model shows they are generally trustworthy. This single defection is highly likely to be just statistical noise.
It mathematically learns to forgive your occasional mistakes, effectively diffusing the death spiral before it even begins.
That's brilliant.
And the empirical results were staggering. When Hodges placed Bayesian Forgiver into a tournament against the top classic human strategies, it ranked 6th out of 15.
Wow.
And in the massive comprehensive tournament against 226 incredibly complex strategies, it ranked 93rd.
Which puts it in the top 41% of all strategies ever invented.
Right. And
crucially, it beat Win-Stay, lose shift. I mean, AI autonomously outperformed the very strategy that evolutionary biologists have relied on for decades as the primary mathematical model for forgiveness.
It proves that dynamic, earned forgiveness based on accumulated data is mathematically superior to rigid retaliation or blind trust.
So what does this all mean for you, the listener? Let's bring all these threads together. From the 1558 origins of blow for blow, to the brutal reality TV betrayal of Sarah and Stephen, all the way to a procurement manager scrambling to survive a fractured global supply chain. The invisible mechanics of trust govern everything we do.
They're everywhere.
Whether you are navigating toxic office politics, managing a remote team, or just dealing with a difficult romantic partner, the mathematical secret to success remains remarkably consistent. You have to start nice.
Always start nice.
You have to hold your boundaries and retaliate when crossed so you don't become the sucker paying for everyone else's lobster. But most importantly, you must build up a track record of accumulated trust and use that trust to actively forgive occasional mistakes before they destroy the relationship.
And looking at the sheer capability demonstrated in that final experiment, it leaves us with one incredibly provocative question for the future.
What's that?
If an AI agent can autonomously analyze decades of game theory, run thousands of simulations, and mathematically prove that earned forgiveness is the most optimal way to survive a hostile environment, could we one day use those same AI agents to negotiate the massive real-world prisoners' dilemmas like international trade wars, tariffs, and supply chain decoupling that human politicians are currently failing to solve?
Man, now there's a thought. Are we going to outsource world peace to the Bayesian forgiver?
It's entirely possible.
Well, next time you're out to dinner with a big group and it's time to split the bill, keep a close eye on who orders the lobster. Hold your boundaries. But if it's a friend who usually plays fair, maybe you should forgive the side of fries. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.